Canada's top cybersecurity authority says COVID vaccine researchers in Canada, in the U.S., and in the U.K. are being targeted by professional hackers. And who appears to be responsible? Russia. CBC's Catherine Tunney is on the story.
Canada, the U.S., and the U.K. all came out this morning pointing the finger at what they believe is a Russian-backed hacking group, alleging that they have gone after trying to steal important information that all these countries are working at to find a vaccine for COVID-19. So the Communication Security Establishment, those are kind of Canada's cyber spies, if you will, or the Foreign Signals Intelligence Agency, put out a statement alleging that this group called APT-29, though they're also known as Cozy Bear and the Dukes, is responsible for this attack, basically using malware to try to steal important research information. And what's really important is that they've said that this group is almost certainly, that's their quote, part of the Russian intelligence service. So basically coming right out and saying that this is a Russian-backed attack. That's pretty strong language from the CSC. As journalists, we're always trying to get them to name who they think is behind certain attacks, and for diplomatic reasons, they often don't. But today, they're coming out and they're blaming Russia for this. Now, I think we have a quote from the CSC that they put out this morning that says, "These malicious cyber activities were very likely undertaken to steal information and intellectual property relating to the development and testing of COVID-19 vaccines and serve to hinder response efforts at a time when healthcare experts and medical researchers need every available resource to help fight the pandemic." So that's a statement from the CSE this morning. Pretty strong language. I did try to go to them this morning, trying to get more details, like, was this a successful attack? Was information stolen? Where, was it from a Canadian university or maybe one of the government-backed facilities? They're not commenting on those specifics, but they have been warning since the beginning of the pandemic that state-sponsored actors would likely want to go after these kind of vaccine researchers. And in May, they had said they were investigating a case. So this is kind of a long time coming, but today they're naming and blaming a Russian-backed group.
You know what? I'm just looking at the wires, Catherine, and there's an alert saying the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman says the allegations, in this case particularly to British allegations, but including Canada, of that are unclear and contradictory. Now, this is also on allegations of election meddling. So lots of things percolating in that, focus on Russia in interfering and perhaps using cybersecurity to get information. What's the reaction you're seeing so far?
Yeah, not surprising that the Russian government would respond that way. I think there's a reason why Canada, the U.S., and the UK kind of coordinated all their responses together to try to really bolster their argument, coming out all together. So far, we have seen reaction from the UK. Of course, they're a few hours ahead of us. So Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, he tweeted this morning that the United Kingdom stands with the United States and Canada against the reckless actions of Russia's intelligence services, who we have exposed today for committing cyber attacks against those working on a COVID-19 vaccine, undermining vital cooperation to defeat this pandemic. So they're digging in. They really do believe that this is a Russian-backed attack.
That's CBC's Catherine Tunney in Ottawa. Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan has reacted to the hacking on social media. He posted this: "It's important to defend Canada's healthcare organizations, our national interests, and that of our allies, the UK and the USA. Let's call out bad behavior, reinforce a shared and common understanding of rule-based norms, and deter malicious foreign cyber actors from targeting our country." And we want to delve even further into this. So our Chase team reached out to Teresa Payton. She's CEO of Fortalice Solutions. It's a cybersecurity and intelligence firm, and she also served as Chief Information Officer under U.S. President George W. Bush. We've reached her in Charlotte, North Carolina. Teresa, time is of the essence. I want to get right to it. What do you make of this recent cyber attack targeting, vaccine producers of COVID-19 and the development thereof?
Well, unfortunately, I'm of course dismayed, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this is a typical tactic of the Russian intelligence and Russian regime. And again, they're going to deny that they had anything to do with it. That's also part of the typical tactic, plausible deniability. But this is really challenging because the question is, are they probing just for information to see what the status is? Or are they probing to basically promote misinformation about the vaccine or to steal the research and development? And obviously the investigation and forensics will have to let us know more as the hours of an investigation unfurl.
And how highly prized would information of this sort be? And I'm wondering, if it is highly prized, would it also be information the higher-ups would know about, meaning Putin?
Well, it's interesting. Putin, in my years of studying how he leverages the military operation and then other cyber operatives within sort of the nation-state complex of Russia, he does have plausible deniability. So a lot of times it's just kind of an order that comes out of find out everything you can about this particular topic so that he can say, well, I didn't direct anybody to steal or to meddle with COVID-19 research or research for a vaccine. So he probably has plausible deniability here. It doesn't mean that he didn't give an order and that he's not behind it.
We do know that your Department of Homeland Security, cybersecurity, warned that there could be attacks, and this was back in April. I'm wondering, wouldn't it have been normal then to put in extra, barriers so there was less possibility of being hacked?
Yeah, this is the challenge. In order to race, lives are at stake here with COVID-19 around the globe. And in order to race, to share information across multiple researchers and research facilities, oftentimes security, because of the way it's designed today, is a barrier to sharing information. I'm not saying it makes it right or wrong that additional protocols might not have been put in place here. But that's the fundamental challenge with cybersecurity today is we don't design around the humans who are trying to get their job done. We put in place all these roadblocks and obstacles because we don't design with them in mind. I'm assuming more protocols were put in place, but here's the thing. The security team has to get it right every minute of the day. Cyber operatives in Russia just have to get it right one time.
And speaking of those operatives, Teresa, they're being named as a group called APT-29, also known as the Dukes, also known as Cozy Bear, sometimes known as Fancy Bear. Do you know anything about them?
Yes, I do. I've actually studied them for years, both in working and responding to incident response at companies and against individuals, as well as the research for my new book, Manipulated. These groups are trained to be elite cyber operatives. They're also set up in cells where they work so independently, they actually sometimes don't know the other cell is already in an organization, and they sometimes trip over each other. That's how independent these cells work.
How did you do that research for your book, Manipulated?
A lot of it is sort of seeing things on the firing lines, but also interviewing different researchers and security colleagues all across the United States and reading all different types of publicly available forensic reports that law enforcement has actually produced as part of court proceedings.
If we're, worried about the vaccine, I'm wondering if there is equal worry about your election. You guys are going to be heading to the polls in 4 months. Does this kind of attack worry you with regards to getting into important information that could affect your democracy in the United States?
Absolutely. A tsunami bell went off yesterday on Twitter when operatives took over the accounts of many VIPs, not just in the United States, across the world, but here it was President Obama. It was Vice President Biden, now presidential candidate. It was
Bill Gates, Kanye
Bill
West,
Gates, Warren Buffett.
Yes, Warren Buffett.
The head of the newspaper, the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos. So we have some serious work still left to do. So much great work has been done. And I really applaud the different states and their board of elections, their security teams, as well as Department of Homeland Security. But there is still so much work to do. It is really going to be a race of the good guys versus the bad guys and making sure our elections are secure.
The thing I took away from this interview is you mentioning that The security experts have to get it right every time, but the hackers only have to be right once.
That's the difficult part of the job, but you know what? It's why people like me and my colleagues, we're always bound to determine that we're going to win.
I want to thank you for your time, Teresa. Pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me on. Great to speak with you today.
Teresa Payton is the CEO of Fortalice Solutions. It's a cybersecurity and intelligence firm, and she's in Charlotte, North Carolina.